It's the Then versus Now Challenge! 3!
Today it's race 2 of Group 1.
Today's race features the legendary Nissan GT-R. And if you've been watching this event since the beginning, then you know these racers had to earn their spots today by winning back in qualifying race 1.
Returning for Team Then, it's the still beautiful 1982 Turbo R30. Driven by Roberto Paul from San Bernardino, California.
And back for Team Now, it's this horsepower beast, the 2020 LBWK 35 GT-R V2. And it's driven by Mr. Tanner Zhang, who joins us all the way from Dazhou, China.
Okay then, Al, let's cut the chatter and get this race started. Here we are at the guillotine gate for Heat 1. In Lane 1, it's Roberto Paul, and to his right in Lane 2, it's Tanner Zhang.
While it's not their first time on our track, it is the first time they'll only be racing against one other car instead of 3, so I'm sure they really appreciate the extra elbow room.
3, 2, 1, go!
They're tight!
Tanner leads.
Roberto loses it at the jump.
Tanner is all over the place. Oh, and he's hard into the tires, and bits of rubber are flying everywhere. Wow, Barry, these guys brought the excitement in the qualifiers, and they're keeping it going here.
That's right, Al. Look how tight they keep it all the way through the bottleneck. It's only around Carmine Corner that Tanner Zhang gets the advantage with all that extra horsepower. And he gets a beautiful launch off the ramp, and you can see that four-wheel drive system working hard to keep him on the track.
Unfortunately, Roberto Paul cannot say the same, because he goes bumper first into the track and then off into the clunkers. But he does impressively two-wheel it and keep it on the track, only to unimpressively park it under the big rig.
Speaking of unimpressive, after such a beautiful landing, Mr. Zhang completely loses it coming down the boulevard, spinning wildly out of control and going hard into the tires. But an unimpressive win still gets you a very impressive check on our scorecard.
Heat 2. Roberto Paul needs to get that Turbo R30 in gear. He has to win this heat in order to stay alive.
The racers have switched lanes. Let's see how that affects this heat.
3, 2, 1, go!
They go wide!
Massive blowout! Roberto holds on!
Tanner flips! They both spin!
Roberto Paul explodes on impact!
Now, slow it down, Al. Let's break it all down in the replay.
Wow, what horrible luck for Roberto Paul!
They both went wide down Nevada to keep it safe.
But then, boom! Roberto Paul's rear tire just explodes, foreshadowing how he was soon about to explode himself.
Al, we don't know what happened, so just stay calm.
I'll tell you what happened. Tanner Zhang comes off the jump sideways and goes tumbling down the hill like Jack from Jack and Jill. And Roberto Paul is hard on the brakes trying to avoid but skids into the clunkers. Then they both go spiraling out of control and into the tires. But Roberto Paul, like his tire in the bottleneck, explodes on impact.
The only thing we know for sure that exploded was Tanner Zhang's second win on our scorecard. Heat 3. Tanner Zhang already has enough wins to move him into the quarterfinals.
This is pretty much a mercy run to see if Roberto Paul can at least put one win on the scorecard after exploding in the last heat.
He's literally right there at the guillotine gate, Al. He obviously did not explode.
Well, I don't know what kind of off-frame Looney Tunes zombie voodoo magic Roberto Paul just pulled off, but he definitely exploded.
Sure, Al. Save it for the Halloween special.
3, 2, 1, go!
They connect! Zhang is upside down!
Voodoo magic!
It's pandemonium!
Roberto is all out of magic.
Zhang tries to straighten out what goes into the tires.
Without exploding.
Zip it, Al.
Well, now I'm convinced Roberto Paul definitely knows Looney Tunes voodoo magic.
Is that even a thing, Al?
It has to be, Barry. Just look at this. In the bottleneck, Roberto Paul does some kind of weird voodoo jiggle with his car.
Voodoo jiggle?
Yes, and it causes Zhang to flip over coming out of the bottleneck and into Carmine Corner. Zhang has sizable lead. How did he flip over like that?
Because the scrapyard hasn't been repaved since Ronald Reagan was president?
No, Barry. It was voodoo magic. I mean, look at this. Roberto Paul makes Tanner's car completely imitate his car, just like a voodoo doll. But that spell must have been too powerful and left him exhausted and on the side of the road.
Al, what did you have for dinner last night?
Just some sugar-fried cheese right before bed. Why, Barry?
I told you to stop eating that stuff. It gives you nightmares.
But I'm wide awake.
Al, with your IQ, I don't think you're ever truly awake.
Well, who did get a wake-up call was Tanner Zhang. Into the tires.
Wow, I take that back, Al. That was actually a great segue. And here's another one. With that third win, Tanner Zhang just gave us all a wake-up call by being the first racer to have a perfect shutout victory. And Mr. Zhang easily moves on to the quarterfinal round. He's letting everyone know that he's in this tournament to win it all.
And if you remember in our last tournament, we also had a Nissan GT-R that dominated. In fact, we dubbed him Godzilla because he was such a monster on the track. So while you're waiting for our next race, you can watch that whole tournament in one sitting by checking out our compilations playlist.
And be sure to join us next time when we're back to Group 2 for Race 2. But to find out who those racers are, you'll have to join us for the next exciting installment of...
It's the Then versus Now Challenge! 3,